When I tell people about this opportunity, they don't believe me.
So now let's dive into some practical ways in which you've found to add that value as it pertains to outside of the initial thought of just selling the real estate, right? It's the exit planning, right? And a part of it, you reached out to me a couple months ago and got to know each other a little bit briefly. And as a part of that, the big challenge is these high-end primary homes sometimes that have been highly appreciated. So walk through just that challenge that you find perhaps that some of your clients are facing. What does that look like and feel like for them when they're looking at, oh my gosh, I'm going to sell my house for 15 million bucks, but I might be paying, $1 to $3 to $5 million of tax.
Yeah. So I found you, just so your listeners know, on a podcast. And I'm like, wow, this guy is really leaned in. He's articulate. He's very smart. When I worked in 1031 exchanges, we didn't really talk much about DSTs. We just used them to sort of round out a 1031 exchange. And I never knew that it could be the only solution that you need for a primary resident to take their capital gains and defer it and put it into another property. That was like mind blowing for me to understand that concept, which I learned on the podcast that you were on. So I found you. We're having this conversation now, but basically, I meet a lot of older folks that have been in their homes for years. I mean, the Beverly Hills Flats, like if you bought 20 years ago, you probably bought it for less than $1 million. And now if it's a tear down, it's worth at least 7 million. Maybe more, 10, 11, 12, if it's on a big lot. So we're talking about huge gains. And on top of that too, it's also the tax problem, the property tax problem of if they are to buy a new property, can they afford those property taxes? And that's sort of that second piece, which changed last year, which is why I'm sure you're extra busy too right now, because now you've got two things working in tandem, being able to defer your capital gains on a primary residence and take your property tax basis with you. It's like golden ticket. So just a lot of people don't know about these things. They don't know that they have options. I know you said on your podcast that this is like 400-year-old tax law, IRC code, whatever it is, you referred to it.
IRC 453, right, is the code, and then it goes back about 90-year-old tax law, and then it but what's interesting though is it works for primary homes, right, versus just the 1031 exchange works for investment property, right? So a lot of realtors, and by the way, I'm a realtor and commercial real estate broker, really, started in 2006. And so we knew about the 1031 exchange years ago, but we didn't know that the Deferred Sales Trust was an alternative to that, could work for primary homes or investment real estate. It works for both. And the biggest thing is they don't have to feel trapped in their houses. Like, for example, we just did a deal in Palo Alto, high-end, Silicon Valley home, about an $8.3 million sale. And that particular client, he was looking at a huge capital gains tax, and he could not qualify for the 1031. By the way, the 121 exclusion, right? If you lived there the last 5 years, you got 250 single, 500 married. But above and beyond that, you're looking at tax, right? Which a 1031 does not qualify for. So you're exactly right. When you mix the deferred sales trust to be able to sell in a high-end primary home with Prop 19, which allows you to transfer your tax to the next deal, you've got a perfect opportunity to take advantage of relocating, downsizing, right? Diversifying your wealth, as well as tax deferral. So any thoughts on that?
When I tell people about this opportunity, they don't believe me and this is part of the reason why we're doing this podcast. So it's like, here's living, breathing proof of, Brett and I having this conversation that this is an option for you. And I just want to get this out there to more people because I think it could change people's lives. I think it's extremely powerful. And more people should tap into it before the government catches on and changes it.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. That'd probably be the first question, right? And maybe you can ask me some questions that maybe your clients might have.